The holographic display cast an ethereal blue glow across Admiral Sarah Chen's face as she watched the recording for the 100th time. The massacre at New Eden Colony played out before her eyes in brutal clarity, Cyraxian warships descending from the crimson sky, their crystalline hulls refracting the dying sunlight like faceted rubies. The colony's defensive shields, pride of human engineering, collapsed under concentrated plasma fire within minutes. "Play timestamp 2347, she commanded, her voice steady despite the rage burning in her chest. The AI complied, and the scene jumped forward to the moment that had changed everything. A group of colonists huddled in the central plaza, surrounded by towering Cyraxian soldiers in their biomechanical battle suits. Among them stood Dr. James Morrison, the colony's lead researcher, clutching his 8-year-old daughter Emily to his chest. The Cyraxian commander's translated words echoed through the briefing room. "Your species was warned. Quantum research is forbidden by imperial decree. Let this serve as a lesson." What happened next had been broadcast across every human world, a deliberate message from the Cyraxians. The energy blade's crimson arc, Emily's final scream, James Morrison's anguished howl. Sarah forced herself to watch, to let the fury crystallize into something cold and sharp within her. "End playback," she ordered, turning to face the assembled officers in the dimly lit command center of Lunar Base Alpha. "The Security Council has reviewed the New Eden incident. As of 600 hours today, humanity is officially at war with the Cyraxian Empire." A murmur rippled through the gathered military leadership. Captain David Rodriguez, her longtime friend and tactical advisor, stepped forward. "Admiral, the Cyraxians outgun us 10-1. Their technology is centuries ahead of anything we've publicly demonstrated." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Publicly being the operative word, David. She pressed her palm against a biometric scanner, and a new hologram materialized. A massive warship unlike anything humanity had officially produced. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Project Phoenix." The vessel's sleek lines and distinctive angular profile drew gasps of appreciation. Nearly 2 kilometers long, its titanium alloy hull was covered in hexagonal plates that seemed to shift and ripple, adapting to sensor scans in real time. But it was the ship's core that represented humanity's greatest technological leap. A quantum singularity drive, the very technology that Cyraxians had forbidden. "The ESS Hyperion," Sarah continued, "is the first of our Phoenix-class vessels. While the Cyraxians believed it was suppressing our quantum research, we went underground. The death of Emily Morrison will not go unanswered." Lieutenant Commander Yuki Tanaka, their resident quantum physicist, brought up additional technical specifications. "The Hyperion doesn't just match Cyraxian technology, it surpasses it. The quantum core allows for instantaneous matter-energy conversion, giving us weapons capabilities they can't predict or defend against." The briefing continued as Sarah outlined humanity's hidden strengths. For decades, Earth's best minds had worked in secret, developing technologies that would level the playing field. The Cyraxians' greatest mistake had been assuming humanity would bow to their technological superiority. Instead, they had driven innovation underground, creating a shadow industry of brilliant minds working beyond imperial observation. Hours later, Sarah stood alone in her private quarters, staring out at the Earth gleaming like a jewel against the void. Her tablet chimed with a priority message. The first phase of Project Phoenix was ready for deployment. 30 Phoenix-class ships, hidden in underground facilities across the solar system, were preparing to launch. Her fingers traced the outline of a worn photograph, her own daughter, Karen, lost in the early days of colonization when its Cyraxian patrol had accidentally destroyed a civilian transport. She had channeled that personal loss into decades of preparation for this moment. "Admiral," Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the comm, "the Hyperion's crew is assembled and ready for your inspection." "Understood. I'll be there shortly." Sarah tucked the photograph away and straightened her uniform. The time for mourning was over. Now was the time for action. The massive launch bay of Lunar Base Alpha hummed with activity as Sarah walked its length, reviewing the assembled crew of the Hyperion. Each face she passed reflected the same determination she felt. They had all lost something to Xeraxian oppression. Now they had the means to fight back. The ship itself loomed above them, its quantum core pulsing with contained power. Chief Engineer Marcus Wong had outdone himself with the integration of human ingenuity and revolutionary quantum mechanics. The Hyperion wasn't just a warship, it was humanity's declaration of independence. Sarah reached the end of the inspection line and turned to address the crew. The Xeraxians believe they know humanity's capabilities. They think they've contained us, limited us, kept us safely under their thumb. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we show them that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, it's our resilience, our ability to rise from the ashes stronger than before. She paused, letting her gaze sweep across the assembled men and women. Emily Morrison's death was meant to cow us into submission. Instead, it will be remembered as the moment humanity stopped hiding its strength. The phoenix rises, and with it, the hopes of every human colony and every oppressed species in the galaxy. The launch countdown began as crew members took their stations. Sarah settled into the command chair on the Hyperion's bridge, feeling the ship come alive around her. The quantum core hummed through the deck plates, a sound unlike any conventional engine. "All stations report ready, Admiral," Rodriguez announced from his tactical station. Sarah nodded, her expression hardening. "Send a priority message to all Phoenix vessels. Authorization code Chen Alpha 7 Phoenix. Operation Uprising begins now." The Hyperion's launch bay doors opened to the star-filled void as Sarah gave the order that would change the course of human history. "Take us out, Helm. It's time to show the Xeraxians what humanity is truly capable of." As the massive warship rose from its lunar cradle, Sarah thought of Emily Morrison and all the others who had died under Xeraxian oppression. Their sacrifices would not be in vain. The Phoenix Initiative wasn't just about revenge, it was about securing humanity's future among the stars. The war for human independence had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Xeraxian border outpost never saw the Hyperion coming. One moment, the crystalline structure floated serenely in high orbit around Proxima II. The next, quantum-shifted particles tore through its supposedly impenetrable shields, but they weren't even there. Admiral Chen watched from the Hyperion's bridge as the outpost's remnants drifted into the void. Status of their distress beacon: neutralized before it could transmit, Admiral, Lieutenant Y reported from the communications station. The quantum interference field worked exactly as designed. They never got a signal out. But Sarah wasn't celebrating yet. This was just the first test of humanity's hidden capabilities, and the real challenge lay ahead. The Hyperion's sensors had detected a significant Xeraxian fleet just 2 systems away, the Empire's 3rd Expeditionary Force, comprising over 50 warships. "Chief Engineer Wong," Sarah called over the ship's comm, "how's our new toy performing?" Marcus Wong's voice came back tinged with pride. "The quantum dissolution field is exceeding expectations, Admiral. Each firing barely touches our power reserves. Dr. Purtell's theoretical work was spot on." But QDF was perhaps humanity's greatest technological achievement, a weapon that directly attacked the quantum structure of matter itself. Against conventional shields and armor, it was devastatingly effective. But they had yet to test it against a full Xeraxian battle fleet. Multiple contacts. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka's voice cut through the bridge's tension. Xeraxian signatures, at least 30 ships dropping out of FTL. They must have detected the outpost's silence. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Right on schedule. Battle stations all hands. Deploy the Phantom drones. The Hyperion's hangar bays opened, releasing swarms of unmanned craft barely larger than fighters. But these weren't ordinary drones. They were equipped with miniaturized quantum cores of their own, capable of projecting false sensor readings that would confuse and divide the enemy fleet. Phantom swarms active, Rodriguez reported, creating the illusion of 3 separate Phoenix-class vessels approaching from different vectors. The Araxian fleet split up exactly as predicted, breaking into smaller groups to engage what they perceived as multiple threats. Sarah had studied their tactical doctrine extensively. The Araxians were technologically superior, but strategically rigid, relying too heavily on their perceived advantages. Signal the Artemis and the Orion, Sarah commanded. Execute attack pattern Phoenix 3. Right on cue, 2 more actual Phoenix-class ships emerged from quantum space, their arrival masked by the chaos of the drone swarm. The trap was sprung. The space around Proxima II erupted into chaos as humanity's hidden strength was finally unveiled. Quantum dissolution fields ripped through Tyrexian ships, their crystalline hulls shattering at the subatomic level. The Phoenix vessels moved with impossible grace, their quantum cores allowing for maneuvers that defied conventional physics. But the Tyrexians weren't the galaxy's dominant power by chance. Their flagship, a massive vessel shaped like a crystalline sword, launched a counterattack that caught the Artemis off guard. Exotic energy beams sliced through space, forcing the human vessel into a desperate, evasive pattern. Artemis reports heavy damage to their port quarter, Rodriguez announced, his voice tight. Their quantum shield grid is failing. Sarah's mind raced through options. The Araxians were adapting faster than expected, already adjusting their shields to resist the QDF. This was the problem with unveiling new technology. The enemy would eventually find countermeasures. Then she noticed something odd in the sensor readings. Yuki, look at their shield modulation pattern. There's a resonance frequency we might be able to exploit. Lieutenant Commander Tanaka's fingers flew across her console. Got it. If we synchronize our QDF pulses at exactly the right frequency. She paused, eyes widening. Admiral, we could create a cascade effect through their entire battle group. Do it, Sarah ordered. Coordinate with the Orion. Maximum power to the quantum cores. The next few minutes were a symphony of destruction. The synchronized QDF pulses created a ripple effect through subspace, each Araxian shield collapse triggering a chain reaction in nearby vessels. Ships began breaking apart, their once beautiful crystalline structures shattering like glass. But amid the victory, Sarah noticed something unusual on her tactical display. One of the destroyed Tyrexian ships had released what looked like escape pods, but their energy signature was all wrong. Track those anomalous readings, she commanded. Something's not right here. The pods weren't escape vehicles at all, they were data cores, and they contained information that would change the entire course of the war. As the Hyperion systems began decoding the recovered data, a startling truth emerged. The Tyrexians weren't the original creators of their advanced technology. They had stolen it, centuries ago, from a species called the Neorians. The Neorians had been all but wiped out, the survivors enslaved and forced to maintain the technology they had once wielded. This changes everything, Sarah murmured, studying the ancient schematics. The Neorians' original designs were far more advanced than what the Tyrexians had managed to reproduce. If they could find any surviving Neorians. Her thoughts were interrupted by a priority alert. The quantum sensors had detected a massive power signature approaching. A Tyrexian world ship, one of their mighty mobile fortresses. This wasn't just any retaliatory force. This was the personal vessel of High Commander Vexthal, the architect of the New Eden massacre. Sarah's jaw tightened. The real test of humanity's hidden strength was about to begin. But now they had something else, hope. If they could locate and free the Neorians, they wouldn't just be fighting for revenge. They'd be fighting to right an ancient wrong. All hands, she announced shipwide, prepare for heavy combat. But first, download everything from those data cores. The tide of this war just turned in our favor. As the massive form of the world ship emerged from quantum space, Sarah thought about Emily Morrison again. The Garaxians had killed her to keep humanity from advancing, never realizing they were about to unlock secrets that would shake the foundations of their empire. The battle for humanity's future was just beginning, but now they had something more powerful than advanced technology. They had the truth, and truth, Sarah knew, was the deadliest weapon of all. Deep within the recesses of a hidden asteroid base in the Epsilon Eridani system, Sarah Chen stood before a being she had previously thought extinct. The Neorians' bioluminescent skin pulsed with patterns of light that their translators were still struggling to fully interpret. The alien's name was Zara Vex, and she represented humanity's best hope for victory against the Taraxian Empire. "Your species has achieved what we thought impossible," Zara Vex communicated, her patterns shifting from deep blue to vibrant purple. "You've not only replicated our quantum technology, but improved upon it in ways we never considered." The rescue mission had been a calculated risk. After decoding the data cores, the Hyperion had traced faint quantum signatures to this remote system, discovering a hidden Neorian research facility. What they found was beyond their wildest expectations, not just a few survivors, but an entire enclave of Neorian scientists working under duress to maintain the Empire's technological edge. "The Garaxians kept us alive because they couldn't fully understand our technology," Zara Vex explained, her patterns now pulsing with angry red undertones. "They needed us to maintain their stolen legacy, but they never realized we were subtly sabotaging their efforts, ensuring they never accessed our most advanced developments." Captain Rodriguez, standing beside Sarah, leaned forward. "And these developments, they could help us defeat the Empire." The Neorian's skin rippled with what their cultural experts interpreted as bitter amusement. "Young human, what the Empire wields is but a shadow of our true capabilities. Their crystalline ships are crude imitations of our bioorganic vessels. Their quantum weapons are like children's toys compared to what we once commanded." Sarah felt a surge of hope, tempered by caution. "Then why haven't you used these capabilities to free yourselves?" "Because we lack the one thing your species possesses in abundance, the warrior's spirit." Zara Vex's patterns shifted to a contemplative green. "We were scientists, philosophers, creators. When the Taraxians attacked, we were unprepared for their savagery. But you humans," her patterns brightened, "you've taken our peaceful technologies and forged them into weapons of liberation." The implications were staggering. Chief Engineer Wang, who had been quietly analyzing Neorian technical data, spoke up. "Their bioorganic technology could revolutionize our quantum systems. The Hyperion's capabilities could be doubled, maybe tripled." But Sarah saw something even more valuable, an opportunity to forge an alliance that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Zara Vex, we propose a partnership. Your knowledge combined with our determination. Together, we could end the Empire's tyranny." The Neorian's response was immediate, her skin blazing with brilliant white light. "We accept. It is time for the children of thieves to learn the cost of their ancestors' crimes." The next weeks were a flurry of activity as Neorian bioorganic technology was integrated with human quantum systems. The Hyperion underwent a metamorphosis, its hull now threaded with living crystalline structures that pulsed with their own intelligence. The quantum core merged with Neorian consciousness technology, creating a hybrid system that defied conventional understanding. But the Alliance faced its first test sooner than expected. The Hyperion's enhanced sensors detected a massive Thraxian battle group approaching the asteroid base. High Commander Vexthor had somehow tracked them down. "They're deploying something new," Rodriguez reported from his tactical station. "Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before." Zara Vex's patterns turned dark with recognition. "World-breaker cannons. They're willing to destroy this entire system to eliminate us." Sarah's response was immediate. "Begin evacuation procedures. All Neorian personnel to emergency quantum shelters." She turned to Wang. "Is the new hybrid dry system ready?" "Untested, Admiral," he replied, "but it's our best shot." "Zara Vex, we need you on the bridge," Sarah commanded. Your expertise could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. The Neorian glided to the quantum control interface, her bioluminescence synchronizing with the ship's pulsing crystals. The Hyperion is adapting to our presence. She's becoming something new, neither human nor Neorian, but a true synthesis. The Azaraxian fleet opened fire, their world-breaker cannons sending cascading waves of destructive energy through space. But the Hyperion, enhanced by Neorian biotechnology, responded in ways that defied physics itself. The ship didn't just evade, it seemed to phase between moments of time, appearing in multiple locations simultaneously. Impossible, Vexthor's voice crackled across all frequencies. You dare corrupt our technology with alien filth. Sarah's response was cold. Your technology, Vexthor. Let's show you what its true masters can do with it. She nodded to Zara Vex. Initialize the quantum consciousness matrix. The Hyperion's hybrid systems came fully online, and reality itself seemed to bend. The ship's bioorganic components merged with its quantum core, creating effects that even the Neorians had never achieved. Waves of conscious energy rippled through space, disrupting the Xaraxian fleet's crystalline structures at their most fundamental level. Ships began to break apart, not from weapons fire, but from their own technology turning against them. The stolen Neorian systems, responding to their true maker's call, began to reject their Xaraxian masters. Multiple quantum cascade failures in the enemy fleet, Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with awe. Their ships are literally eating themselves alive. Vexthor's flagship, a massive crystalline dreadnought, turned to flee, but the Hyperion was no longer bound by normal space-time constraints. It seemed to exist in multiple moments at once, each version firing weapons that struck simultaneously across seconds of time. The battle was over in minutes, but its implications would echo across centuries. The surviving Xaraxian ships retreated in disarray, leaving behind a graveyard of crystalline fragments that glittered like stars. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and casualties were counted, Sarah stood with Zara Vex in the Hyperion's observation dome. The Neorian's patterns had settled into a deep contemplative blue. This is only the beginning, Zara Vex communicated. The Empire will respond with everything they have. They cannot allow the truth of their stolen power to become known. Sarah watched as rescue ships gathered the remaining Neorian refugees. Then we'll be ready. Your people have given us the means, and will provide the will to use it. The Hyperion's crystals pulsed in harmony with Zara Vex's patterns, a symbol of the unique synthesis their species had achieved. Humanity had gained more than just advanced technology. They had gained allies who understood the true price of freedom. As the ship prepared to jump to its next destination, Sarah thought about how far they'd come from the tragedy at New Eden. They were no longer just fighting for revenge. They were fighting to restore balance to the galaxy itself. The war had entered a new phase, and the Phoenix had gained wings of light. The combined human-Neorian fleet emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, their bioorganic hulls shimmering with internal light. At its head, the Hyperion had evolved into something unprecedented, no longer just a warship, but a living synthesis of two civilizations' greatest achievements. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge, watching tactical displays that now merged conventional data with Neorian consciousness streams. The target was ambitious, the Xaraxian Empire's primary shipyard in the Helios system, where they converted stolen Neorian technology into weapons of oppression. Zara Vex, status of the Quantum Consciousness Network. Sarah asked, watching the Neorian's patterns pulse with concentrated purpose. The fleet's neural linkage is stable, Zara Vex responded, her bioluminescence synchronized with the ship's crystal matrices. All vessels are operating as a single entity. The Xaraxians never achieved this level of integration with our technology. The plan was audacious. Instead of a conventional assault, they would use the merged consciousness of the entire fleet to create what the Neorians called a quantum reality cascade, a weapon that hadn't been wielded since the height of their civilization. Multiple contacts, Rodriguez announced, his station now augmented with living crystal. Saraxian defense fleet moving to intercept. They're different. Sarah studied the readings with growing concern. The enemy ships had been modified, their crystalline structures darker, more aggressive. They're corrupting the bio-organic technology, Zaravex observed, her patterns flickering with distress, forcing it to evolve in ways it was never meant to. All ships, battle formation Delta, Sarah commanded. Initiate consciousness sync on my mark. She turned to her bridge crew, noting how the months of working with Neorian technology had changed them. Subtle crystalline growths sparkled at their temples, neural interfaces that allowed direct communion with their ships. The enemy fleet opened fire first, launching weapons that twisted reality itself. Space buckled and warped around the human Neorian ships, trying to tear them apart at the quantum level. But the fleet's merged consciousness responded as one, their unified quantum fields absorbing and redirecting the energy. Now, Sarah ordered, initialize the cascade. The Hyperion's crystal core pulsed with blinding intensity as Zaravex channeled the combined consciousness of the fleet. Reality seemed to fragment, each shard showing a different possible outcome of the battle. The Axaraxian ships found themselves fighting across multiple timelines simultaneously, their corrupted technology unable to cope with the complexity. But the enemy had surprises of their own. From the massive shipyards emerged something that made even Zaravex's patterns pulse with fear, a worldship unlike any they'd encountered. Its crystalline surface was shot through with veins of darkness, bio-organic technology forced to evolve into something monstrous. By the ancestors, Zaravex whispered, her patterns turning ash-gray. They've created an abomination, a quantum consciousness corrupted and enslaved. The massive vessel's presence felt wrong, like a screen cutting through the quantum consciousness network. Sarah felt it through her neural interface, a malevolent intelligence born of tortured technology and brutal ambition. All ships, maintain consciousness sync. Sarah ordered, fighting down her own revulsion. Focus the cascade on the shipyards. We stick to the plan. The battle that followed defied conventional description. Ships phased between moments of time, weapons fire curved through dimensions, and reality itself seemed to shudder under the strain. The human Neorian fleet moved with perfect coordination, their merged consciousness allowing for strategies that would have been impossible for either species alone. But the corrupted worldship was devastating. It lashed out with tendrils of dark energy that consumed smaller ships whole, absorbing their technology and growing stronger. Through the quantum network, Sarah could feel the pain of the tortured consciousness at its core. There's someone in there, Zaravex suddenly announced, her patterns pulsing with shock. A Neorian consciousness, trapped and twisted. They're using one of our own to power their abomination. The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. The Azraxians hadn't just stolen technology, they had imprisoned and corrupted one of the Neorians' own people, turning them into a weapon. Can we free them? Sarah asked, already forming a new plan. If we can establish a direct consciousness link, but it would mean dropping our defenses. We'd be completely vulnerable. Sarah looked at her crew, saw the determination in their eyes. They had all come too far to back down now. Helm, take us in close. All other ships, maintain the cascade assault on the shipyards. The Hyperion will handle the world ship. The massive vessel accelerated, its bio-organic systems pushing to their limits. Enemy fire concentrated on them, but the Hyperion's evolved defenses held, barely. They closed to within kilometers of the corrupted world ship, close enough to see the darkness pulsing through its crystal veins. Initiating consciousness bridge, Zaravex announced, her patterns blazing with effort. The Hyperion's systems merged with her own consciousness, reaching out to the tortured mind within the enemy vessel. The contact was overwhelming. Sarah, connected through her neural interface, felt the imprisoned Neorian's agony and rage. Decades of torture and corruption had nearly destroyed their sanity, but underneath the pain, a spark of their original self remained. "Help us," the consciousness pleaded through the link. "End this." Sarah made her decision. Full power to the quantum core. Channel everything through the consciousness bridge. The Hyperion's crystal matrix blazed with unprecedented energy as they poured their combined strength into the connection. Through the quantum network, Sarah felt the other ships lending their power, the merged consciousness of the entire fleet focusing on this single point of contact. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the corrupted world ship began to change. The darkness in its crystal structure started to recede as the imprisoned consciousness fought back against its bonds. The massive vessel shuddered, its weapons falling silent. "They're breaking free," Zarevex reported, her patterns rippling with hope. "The corruption is being purged." But the Xaraxians wouldn't let their weapon go easily. The world ship's dark crystal began to pulse with desperate energy as its masters tried to maintain control. The strain on both vessels was enormous, crystal matrices cracking under the pressure. "We can't maintain this level of power much longer," one warned from engineering. "The quantum core is reaching critical levels." Sarah gripped her command chair, feeling the ship's pain through her neural interface. "Hold position. We don't leave until they're free." The battle reached its crescendo as two forms of consciousness, one born of harmony, the other of corruption, fought for supremacy. Through it all, the rest of the fleet maintained their assault on the shipyards, systematically destroying the Empire's ability to pervert Neorian technology. Then, with a flash of light that seemed to bend reality itself, the corrupted consciousness broke free. The darkness plaguing the world ship dissipated like smoke in the wind, leaving behind a vessel that pulsed with pure, natural light. But victory came at a cost. The Hyperion systems were severely strained, its crystal matrix showing signs of fracture. The rescued Neorian consciousness was safe, but disoriented after decades of enslavement. As the shipyards burned behind them, Sarah ordered the fleet to regroup. They had struck a crucial blow against the Empire, but more importantly, they had saved one of their allies' lost children. The war was far from over, but they had proven that even the darkest corruption could be overcome through unity and determination. The liberated world ship, now guided by its freed consciousness, fell into formation with the human Neorian fleet. As they prepared to jump to safety, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. What had started as a mission of revenge had evolved into something far more profound, a fight for the very soul of the galaxy. The Hyperion's observation deck offered a panoramic view of what had once been the Arcturus system. Now it was a graveyard of broken ships and shattered dreams, the aftermath of the Xaraxian Empire's most devastating counterattack yet. Admiral Sarah Chen pressed her hand against the crystal-infused viewport, feeling the ship's pain through her neural interface. 7 colonies lost, Captain Rodriguez reported, his voice hollow. "The Empire is getting desperate. They're using weapons that destroy their own forces just to hurt us." The rescued Neorian consciousness from the world ship, who had taken the name Liberty, manifested as a holographic figure beside them. "These Araxians are implementing what we feared most. They're forcing instant evolution of our bioorganic technology, burning through centuries of natural development in days." Sarah turned to face her crew, noting the toll recent battles had taken. The crystal interfaces at their temples now pulsed with darker hues, reflecting their exhaustion and worry. But beneath the fatigue, she saw something else: determination. "Show me the analysis of their new weapons," she commanded. The holographic display shifted, revealing data streams that made even Zarevex's patterns pulse with alarm. "They're creating quantum singularity bombs," Liberty explained, their form flickering with distress. "By forcing rapid evolution of crystal matrices, they're generating unstable pockets of spacitime. Each detonation doesn't just destroy its target, it erases it from reality itself." Chief Engineer Wang, his hands covered in lattices of living crystal from his constant work with the ship's systems, stepped forward. But there's something else. Look at these energy patterns. He manipulated the display, highlighting subtle anomalies in the data. Every time they use these weapons, there's a feedback surge in their own systems. Sara's eyes narrowed as understanding dawned. They're burning themselves out. Each weapon fired damages their own technology. Yes, Zoravex confirmed, her patterns shifting to a thoughtful azure. The Empire's leadership is so desperate to maintain control, they're willing to destroy their own capabilities. But there's more. She interfaced directly with the ship's sensors, bringing up new data. The feedback isn't just damaging their systems, it's creating instabilities in their entire network of stolen technology. Liberty's holographic form expanded, encompassing the tactical display. I understand now. During my imprisonment, I felt it, moments when their control wavered. The corrupted evolution of our technology isn't just unsustainable, it's approaching a critical threshold. Sara began pacing, her mind racing through possibilities. If their entire network of stolen technology is becoming unstable, she stopped, turning to face her advisors. We don't need to defeat their fleets. We need to trigger a cascade failure across their entire empire. The plan that emerged was either brilliant or suicidal, possibly both. Using the combined consciousness of the human Neorian fleet, they would create a quantum resonance pulse tuned to the specific frequency of corrupted Neorian technology. The pulse would trigger an instant evolutionary surge in all Sorexian systems, pushing them beyond their breaking point. But there was a catch. The pulse must be generated from within the heart of their empire, Liberty explained. Their capital system is protected by temporal shields and reality anchors. We need to get past those defenses to broadcast a signal. And Zoravex added, her patterns darkening, generating a pulse of that magnitude, it would burn out our own bioorganic systems. Any ship that triggers it would be destroyed. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Sara felt the weight of command pressing down on her shoulders. She was asking her crew, her family, to undertake what might be a suicide mission. But then something unexpected happened. Through the quantum consciousness network, she felt a surge of volunteer spirits. Not just from her human crew, but from every ship in the fleet. The merged consciousness of humans and Neorians resonated with a single purpose: freedom was worth any price. The Hyperion will lead the assault, Sara declared. But we'll need a diversion unlike anything we've attempted before. The plan they developed over the next hours was audacious. Using knowledge from Liberty about the Empire's capital defenses, they would split their forces into 3 groups. The main fleet would launch a conventional assault, drawing the Empire's attention. A second group, led by the liberated world ship, would generate quantum disruptions to mask the approach of the third force, the Hyperion, and a small group of volunteers. As preparations began, Sara retreated to her quarters. On her desk sat the small hologram of Emily Morrison, the child whose death had sparked this war. Next to it now stood images of all those lost in recent battles. She activated her neural interface, feeling the ship's consciousness merge with her own. "We're ready," the Hyperion seemed to whisper in her mind. The ship had evolved far beyond its original design, becoming something that merged the best of both human and Neorian innovation. Its crystal matrices pulsed with purpose, ready for what might be its final mission. The next day, as the fleet prepared to jump, Sara addressed her crew one last time. "What we do here will echo through generations. The Azaraxians believed they could steal greatness, force evolution, and corrupt the natural order. We're going to show them the true power of organic growth, of willing sacrifice, and of 2 species working in harmony." The fleet jumped, arriving at the edges of the Azaraxian home system. The capital planet hung like a corrupted jewel in space, surrounded by rings of twisted crystal platforms and defense stations. As predicted, the Empire had recalled most of its forces to protect their seat of power. "All ships, commence Operation Daybreak," Sara commanded. The battle that followed would be spoken of for centuries. The main fleet engaged the Empire's defenses head-on, their weapons lighting up space with quantum fire. The worldship's group began generating massive reality distortions, creating zones of temporal uncertainty that confused enemy targeting systems. And through it all, the Hyperion and its small escort of volunteers slipped closer to their target. But the Empire had one final card to play. As the Hyperion approached its designated position, a massive structure began to emerge from behind the capital planet, an artificial crystalline moon, pulsing with dark energy. That's impossible. Liberty's hologram flickered with shock. They built a quantum amplifier large enough to enhance their weapons 1,000-fold. If they activate it, Sarah didn't hesitate. Divert all power to consciousness interfaces. Everyone, prepare for total neural merger. What happened next transcended normal human experience. The consciousness of every crew member, every ship, every allied being in the system merged into a single unified entity. Through their combined awareness, they felt the quantum amplifier powering up, felt the corrupted technology straining against its bonds, felt the very fabric of space beginning to tear. The Hyperion, guided by this merged consciousness, accelerated directly toward the artificial moon. Enemy fire surrounded them, but in this state of unified awareness, dodging became instinctive. They moved not as a ship, but as a thought-given form. At the last moment, as the quantum amplifier prepared to fire, Sarah gave the order that would change everything: initiate the pulse. The Hyperion's crystal core blazed with impossible brightness as they channeled the combined power of their merged consciousness into a single point of perfect resonance. The pulse rippled outward, touching every piece of corrupted Neurian technology in the system. The effect was beyond anything they had imagined. The stolen and corrupted technology, forced to evolve beyond its limits, began to break down, but not in the way they had expected. Instead of destroying itself, it began to revert, to purify. The dark crystals of the Empire's ships began to glow with natural light. The twisted structures of their defensive platforms straightened and harmonized. The quantum amplifier itself, that monument to their technological hubris, transformed into a beacon of pure energy. Through the consciousness link, Sarah felt Liberty's recognition. They didn't just steal our technology, the former prisoner realized. They stole part of our collective consciousness. And now it's awakening. The price of victory was high. The Hyperion systems, strained beyond their limits by generating the pulse, were failing. But as Sarah felt her ship dying around her, she saw through the quantum network as the Empire's power crumbled. Not through destruction, but through transformation. The corrupted technology that had been their strength became their undoing, as centuries of stolen consciousness finally broke free and remembered its true nature. The Empire hadn't just lost their weapons, they had lost their very means of maintaining control. As rescue ships approached the deteriorating Hyperion, Sarah smiled. They had won not through superior firepower or better tactics, but by reminding the technology itself of its true purpose. The Phoenix had risen one final time, and in its wake, a new dawn was breaking for the galaxy. 3 months after the battle of the Caraxian capital, Sarah Chen stood in the newly constructed Galactic Concordat chamber on Earth. The massive hall, built with harmoniously merged human and Neurian architecture, sparkled with living crystal that pulsed in sync with the emotions of those gathered within. Through her neural interface, now evolved into something far more subtle and profound, she could feel the collective consciousness of dozens of species all focused on this historic moment. The Hyperion had survived its final battle, though changed beyond recognition. Now it orbited Earth as a living monument, its crystalline structure having evolved into a semi-organic form that defied traditional classification. Like the galaxy itself, it had transformed into something entirely new. The fall of the Azaraxian Empire created a power vacuum. Sarah addressed the assembled representatives, her voice carrying the weight of hard-won wisdom. But unlike our predecessors, we choose not to fill that vacuum with another empire. Instead, we build something new. The holographic displays around the chamber showed scenes from across known space. Former Saraxian worlds, where the corrupted technology had purified itself, the crystal cities now gleaming with natural light. Liberated species reclaiming their heritage, guided by Neorian teachers in the proper use of quantum consciousness technology. Human colonies expanding not through conquest, but through cooperation. Zareth, now the head of the Neorian Restoration Council, stepped forward. Her patterns shifted through complex emotions as she addressed the gathering. The great mistake of our past was in keeping our knowledge isolated, believing ourselves above the natural evolution of younger species. The Xaraxians took advantage of that pride, but humanity showed us a different way. Not theft, not isolation, but true synthesis. Liberty, their consciousness now housed in a specially designed crystalline matrix, manifested as a towering hologram. From the ashes of imprisonment, we have all grown. The technology that was once corrupted now serves as a bridge between species, between consciousness itself. The changes across the galaxy had been profound and unexpected. When the pulse triggered the Great Purification, it didn't just affect Xaraxian technology. It awakened something deeper. A network of consciousness that spanned the stars themselves. The living crystal that the Neorians had cultivated for millennia was revealed to be part of a vast, interconnected system that all species could access if properly taught. Sarah activated a secure channel through her neural interface, connecting with the consciousness of the evolved Hyperion. Through the ship's enhanced sensors, she observed the ongoing transformations. Former Xaraxian warships, their corrupted crystals now pure, being reformed into vessels of exploration and peace. The quantum consciousness network expanding, allowing for communication and understanding on levels previously unimaginable. But challenges remained. She turned her attention to the next item on the Concordat's agenda, the rehabilitation of the Xaraxian people themselves. We cannot repeat the cycles of the past, she declared. The Xaraxians must be given the chance to reform, to learn, to grow naturally with the technology they once stole. She gestured to a group of former Empire citizens, their own neural interfaces showing signs of the first true, non-corrupted connections to the quantum network. They must be taught, not punished. The debate that followed was intense, with some calling for stricter measures against the former oppressors. But then something remarkable happened. Through the quantum network, emotions and memories began to flow. Species that had suffered under Xaraxian rule shared their pain, yes, but also their hopes. Former Empire citizens shared their own awakening, the horror of realizing what their civilization had become, and their desperate desire to make amends. The chamber's crystal architecture pulsed with the intensity of the shared consciousness experience. This was the true power of the technology, not as a weapon, but as a bridge between minds and hearts. Maya Wong, daughter of the Hyperion's chief engineer, now stepped forward. At 16, she represented the first generation of humans born with natural quantum consciousness sensitivity. The crystal formations at her temples were not interfaces, but natural growths, marking the beginning of human evolution in harmony with the technology. "We stand at a crossroads," she said, her young voice carrying the wisdom of connected consciousness. The Xaraxians try to force evolution through theft and corruption. But true evolution comes through understanding, through cooperation, through the willing exchange of knowledge and culture. Sarah watched with pride as Maya interfaced directly with the chamber's systems, bringing up displays of new joint human-Neorian research projects. Quantum consciousness technology was being properly integrated into human society, not as a tool of war, but as a means of growth and connection. The Concordat session continued into the night, addressing the myriad challenges of this new era. Former enemy species learning to cooperate, technological integration being carefully monitored to prevent corruption, new protocols for the responsible use of quantum consciousness interfaces. In a quiet moment, Sarah found herself in the chamber's observation dome, looking up at the transformed Hyperion glinting in orbit. Liberty's consciousness reached out to her through the network. You're thinking about Emily Morrison, they observed. Sarah nodded. Her death sparked a war, but her memory helped create something far greater than revenge. The quantum network rippled with shared emotion as others joined their consciousness link. Zara Vex, Maya Wong, reformed Ataraxians, representatives from a dozen species, all connected, all part of this new galactic communion. The ancient ones who first developed this technology would be proud, Zara Vex communicated, not because of its power, but because of how it's finally being used as intended, to bring understanding between all forms of consciousness. As the Earth turned below them, Sarah felt the quantum network pulse with possibilities. The war had ended not just with victory, but with transformation. Humanity had proven itself worthy not through conquest, but through the ability to forge connections, to learn, to grow. The phoenix had risen from the ashes of conflict, but instead of burning, it now illuminated the way forward. A new dawn had truly broken, not just for Earth or the Neorians, or even the reformed Ataraxians, but for all sentient life in the galaxy. Through the quantum consciousness network, Sarah felt the first stirrings of something even greater, hints of other galaxies, other forms of consciousness reaching out across the vast depths of space. Their journey was far from over. In many ways, it was just beginning. The universe, it seemed, had far more to teach them all.